Hello, I hope you're doing well today. To get started, we'll want to go over to settings on the sidebar, and then the stringing module will be in the manage add-ons button down here. So once you turn that on, go over to the setup page. It's going to take you over to this specific page over on the add-ons row. So here's going to be the stringing setup. I'll just go over each of these settings here under each of these different sections. So under the general settings, we'll just want to select how you're going to be measuring the weight. Here I'll just pick pounds. And then days in advance to request. This is going to be the default and the minimum that can be selected when creating an individual job. So you'll be able to edit this too, of course, on that individual job. This is just going to be that default and that minimum that is automatically set up when creating an individual job. And then you can also allow members to view the stringing history on the member portal. What that's going to do is if you're over on the member portal and you hover over your member name, there's going to then be a stringing jobs page right here. They'll be able to see any history, any jobs that they have linked to their account. All right, so now back over to the setup page. Let's go over to the job statuses. These are just going to be those different statuses that can be selected on an individual job. So a draft would be a job that is not completely filled out yet. Maybe you're still getting some information from the member, or you're still waiting to get the racket from them. This would just be any sort of job that's not necessarily open and available for a stringer to add to their queue. Just a job that doesn't have all that information yet. An open job is going to be a job that is completely filled out and it has not been in a stringer's queue or assignment yet. So a job that's ready to go, it just has not been given to a stringer yet. Once it has been given to a stringer, they can move the job status over to in progress once they have started that job. And then after that, we'll have the completed and the picked up different job statuses. So for the picked up, this is going to be the only status that you can make inactive. So if you don't have members picking it up from you, maybe you keep them somewhere with a receipt on them and the members just pick it up themselves, or maybe you just give it straight to the member right after the job. If you wanted to, you could disable the picked up job status and it would end on completed instead. But I'll just leave that active now so we can see that when creating an individual job. We also have pre-stretching. If this isn't something that you do, we can also turn this off. But if you turn it on, you'll be able to choose that percentage in the individual job. And then if we go over to the stringing pattern or the string patterns, we have some that are in here by default. When we go to that edit page, you'll be able to choose if they're active or not. But these are just those default ones. And if you have any different patterns you'd like to add in, you can create a custom one here. Next, we have the stringing gauge. This is going to be the different gauges that you can select here. Pretty straightforward. Not going to be able to really edit these. These are just going to be those choosable options when creating the job. And then for the string manufacturers, this information for the string manufacturers and the string inventory can be linked and imported from your POS system. So we know that some organizations were putting this information through their point of sale system. So when you go to the create manufacturer page, when you add that manufacturer's name, you can assign items that you have in point of sale directly to the manufacturer. These are going to be assigned by the item category. So if you have them in point of sale in a category already, you can just add that category to the manufacturer. But I would like to add that right now at the moment, you can only assign these items here on this create page. You can't save the manufacturer and then later assign items. So you'll want to make sure, if you'd like to link these items, that you're doing it at the create manufacturer page here. So now when we get to the string inventory, this is going to be where you can either create items that are only in the stringing module, or you can import items that are also in the point of sale page. So if we go to create item, it's going to look pretty similar to that point of sale create item page. Item name, short name, categories. This is going to be the same categories that you have in point of sale. The main thing that's going to be different here is we now have a stringing item type. So here we're going to have the string item itself, the labor, the grip, and anything that's miscellaneous. So when setting up the string inventory, we're really going to want to make sure we have a different item for the string itself, for the labor that can be added to the job, and the grip as well. So here in my setup, you can see I just have a grip, string, and the labor just as individual items. But you can also import these from your point of sale items if you already have them. My items were already imported, so I don't have any options here. But if you have any items that have not been imported yet, they will show up here with a little checkbox. You can just check off that item and save it. And all of those items from point of sale and from the stringing module will be communicating back and forth. So stock on hand is going to, be the same on both ends, both on the point of sale and on the stringing module. So whenever you use a string for a job, that's going to be taken out of the stock on hand. And then next we have the stringers. So when we go to create stringer, we have two different options here. You can create a user that is only going to be a stringer, not a system user. And in that case, they are not going to be able to sign into your organization. They're really only going to be getting emails about these jobs. Or you can also import from existing system users. So this is just going to show you the list of your system users that have not yet been enabled for the stringing job. If we go over to the settings and go over to system users, once you have turned on the stringing module add-on, there's going to be a new checkbox here. Right there, sorry, I had to find it really quick. So yeah, so now it's going to be under the is instructor. Now you're going to see is stringer. We can turn that on for system users. So with this module, you'll either be able to have system users that are stringers, or you can have people where the only thing they can do in the system is the stringing jobs. So if we go back over here, let me just create a test one just so we can see that. So here we can see when I created a new one, the permissions, they have no access, whereas the other two I imported from my system users. So they are admins, they have full access. And then for the sub admins, let me go back over there. Let me make this sub admin a stringer. We do have a permission, I believe, for the stringers under the sub admins. Yeah, so here, once you have made a sub admin a stringer, you can choose which permissions they have on the stringing module. If they can create jobs, if they can edit any jobs, if they can claim jobs, and if they can delete jobs. Typically, you would want them to at least be able to claim jobs and maybe edit jobs. That way they can edit the status, they can claim jobs for themselves. But if you are going to have somebody who's kind of looking over all of that and doing all of that for them, it may not be necessary. So let me go back over to the stringing setup. All right, and one more thing that I'll add before we really get started going over creating a job and the actual module itself. If you are in point of sale, let me go over here, and you have an item in point of sale, we're going to have a new setting here, eligible for stringing, and then that stringing item type is going to show up here. By default, I believe if you don't pick a stringing item type, it's just going to pick string item as the type here. But for all of your items in point of sale, you can now make them eligible for stringing and choose that stringing type, that stringing item type.